Hello and welcome to today's news analysis. We are doing the Indian Express Papers Chandigarh edition. So the topics that we are covering are mentioned over here. So first of all, we have a news concerning electoral bonds. Basically, the electoral bonds are being challenged at the Supreme Court. We get various arguments concerning the issues with the electoral bonds. So the arguments in detail. I will take the screenshot and share with you so that you can read at your own comfort. The main points are summarized over here. By the way, I would just suggest watch a short video or watch any UPSC thing concerning electoral bonds. This is an old topic. Next, from GS3 science and tech point of view, there is this CAR T cell therapy which can be used for cancer treatment. So this was there in the news because this has gotten regulatory approval. So of course for prelims, basics you should know, and for mains you should be able to write 150 words on this topic. So this is important. Then we have Tripura Bangladesh rail link. Two articles, one in explained, one is in the normal news. So here, of course, India-Bangladesh relationship, that is something that we can look into. Then there is this editorial actually, Bombay High Court intervention for Mumbai pollution. So this is an editorial simply saying what all has happened, but this seemingly less important topic has been repeatedly asked in the mains. So this is about the role of judiciary in environment protection. So 2 times at least I have seen this topic, and you have to know environment related judgments. So I'll share as to how the questions have been asked. Right, so these these three topics are important. Now coming to the first news, which is about challenge to the 2018 scheme, which is electoral bonds. So briefly, let me tell you the functioning of electoral bonds. So let's say somebody wants to fund a political party, BJP, Congress, whatsoever. So one way of doing it was through cash check, RTGS, NFT, whatever. So, but one of the ways was cash payments. Cash is obviously considered a less clean way of funding a political party. It also provides for anonymity. So to deal with this, the present government came up with the idea of electoral bonds. So in this, what happens is the funder buys electoral bonds from designated branches of State Bank of India. So when they buy, they make payments, and in return, the bank issues bonds. These bonds can then be deposited to the political party, and they can then get payments in lieu of this bond from the bank. Fine, electoral bonds. So this was an alternative to cash-based payments. Okay, so cashless. So this seems good, but the activists like Association of Democratic Reforms, etc., they are not happy with this. They have raised certain concerns, and eventually they have challenged it at the Supreme Court. So one of the concerns that have been raised, they say that this electoral bonds is highly anonymous. There is no way of knowing as to who has funded the political party. There is no way for voters to know what are the sources of funds for a political party. This is an inherent right in a democracy that voters should know the source of funding for a political party. There is always a case of conflict of interest or crony capitalism, etc. By the way, I've already shared this on the Telegram, this ADR's viewpoint. Right, so anonymous. The government is saying that they have kept this anonymity thing on purpose because they want to protect the donor's privacy. The donor's privacy. So this has to be protected. They say that it is the donor or the funders, it's their own personal private affair, how they fund or support a political party. Like we vote, it's a personal affair. Likewise, whom we fund, it's a donor's personal affair. So they are defending on these grounds, the government. And they are quoting the Puttaswamy judgment. Okay, Puttaswamy judgment concerns says that the right to privacy is a fundamental right. Okay, so anonymity. Then, okay, next point is the electoral bonds are selectively anonymous. Yes, there is anonymity. There is no way for a political party also to actually figure out who is the donor, right? So what are the sources of the fund? So anonymity is there, but it is selectively anonymous. Even the Supreme Court has pointed out selectively anonymous in the sense that particularly the ruling political party, since they are the owners of the State Bank of India, the government owns and controls so through backward channels, they can figure out the source of funding. They can know who has funded their political party plus the ruling party, plus they can also figure out as to who has funded, if they have funded the opposition parties or not. So there is selective anonymity, which the government is denying. So but that is one of the challenges. So it provides for, it is violative of Article 14, equality. So right to equality. So selectively anonymous. So it can be challenged on constitutional grounds. So it gives ruling party greater advantage as compared to others. And one more thing. Enforcement Directorate and other agencies can also look into the issue. They know that who has funded what are the sources. They can look into this aspect. Third issue, it is being said that electoral bonds, because of the provision of anonymity and secrecy, this can be a channel for funding political parties through black money. So again, black money in politics. So electoral bonds can be a medium for bringing in black money through various measures, like through shell companies, through round tripping of black money, etc. In fact, black money can be made white or clean money through electoral bonds. Okay, so these are the main points that were there in these arguments of about a page long arguments given. So I'll take the screenshot and share with you. Okay. GST revenue surges 13% in October, second highest since rollout in 2017. Nothing much as of now for us. All it indicates is GST, if it goes up, it indicates that there is more economic activity going in the economy, buying and selling, more happening. That's why the surge is taking place, most likely reason. Other thing could be that more people are brought under the ambit of taxation. Okay. Next, we hear that the stubble burning is taking place. We're talking about the agriculture thing. Okay. So basically, the farmers have to clear the paddy that they grew in the Kharif season. So they have to clear this in quickly so that they are able to cultivate the Rabi crop, which is wheat. Right. So that is what this article is basically telling us. Plus, it tells us that this has to be done quickly from November 1st to November 15 in Punjab, because this provides the ideal conditions for cultivating. Now, the conditions for cultivating wheat have been mentioned over here. Not these days, but previously, this question like this, like conditions were given, and then they asked you which crop is being referred to in options. So such questions used to be asked previously in the exams. So basic idea you must have. Now we come to the explained section. Now, as you can see, the first article is about economies of Israel and Palestine compared. So we are not really interested in this. Next is why Bihar is witnessing a surge in dengue cases and deaths. The reason that it is saying is that this time monsoons have been prolonged in the Bihar, and therefore more appropriate, apt conditions for breeding of mosquitoes, and thereby more dengue cases. In fact, I would say that even in this belt, Punjab, etc., we see more mosquitoes. Actually, we're seeing more mosquitoes. And yesterday itself, we had this IMD report, Meteorological Department's report, which said we will have the warmest November. So, ideal conditions for mosquito breeding to take place. Okay, the most important now, India's own chimeric. Let me show you the full form. Chimeric antigen receptor T cell therapy. So India has developed its own. Very few countries have been able to do it. This has been done by a company startup known as ImmunoAct, which was incubated at IIT Bombay. So they have gotten approval, market authorization from the Central Drugs Standard Control Organization. So the drug regulator has given approval for this treatment. So what is this treatment? This treatment is basically a means of curing cancer, of dealing with cancer. It targets specific cancer cells. Now, normally if anybody, unfortunately, if they have cancer, right, strong chemotherapy or something like that is done, and it affects not just the cancer cells, but the nearby regions. Sometimes the organ has to be cut also, removed altogether. So CAR T cell therapy provides a more precise approach towards cancer treatment, and therefore less side effects. Now in this, what happens is patients' white blood cells are taken. So basically blood is taken from the person who's affected with cancer, right? So normal blood is taken. From that, white blood cells are extracted through a process called leukapheresis. Pheresis is basically, centrifugal motion. So with that, the platelets, white blood cells, RPC are segregated. So use of centrifugal force for separating mixture. Okay, so blood is taken, white blood cells are extracted. And within white blood cells, there are T cells. So T cells help us in fighting infections. Now, and this process is known as cytotoxic, right? So this phenomena is known as cytotoxic, that is T cells fighting infection. Now, these T cells, which are taken from the blood, they are genetically modified using the CAR T therapy. So these T cells are genetically modified in such a way that they target the CD19 protein. They only target the CD19 protein. So this is the cell, this is the protein which is there in the cancer cells infected by cancer. I hope you're getting it. White blood cells are taken from white blood cells. T cells are genetically modified to target CD19 protein, and then it is reinfused into the human body. So within a week or 2 weeks, this is reinfused into the human body. So this long story cut short, this is the summary of this. Okay, so reinfused, and thereby, of course, it targets the CD19 protein. So very specific, precise targeting of cancer cells takes place. Okay. Now, the possibility of side effects with this treatment are lesser. Let me put it that way. So one is the possibility of drug-related toxicity. When you have chemotherapy, right, you're using drugs, basically very, very strong drugs. So you're not required to use chemotherapy, even though, when you actually start with this treatment, first of all, chemotherapy is given, but later that is only to prime you. After that, CAR T therapy starts. So the drug-related toxicity is less because the dependence on chemotherapy is less. And I would say even nuclear medicine, radiotherapy, all those things, that is also less. So they are also having side effects. Second, the neurotoxicity, that is when you have these drugs and all this treatment for cancer, it affects your neurons. your nervous system, nervous cells, neurons. So the neurotoxicity is also less because the treatment is very precise and targeted. So somewhere here it is mentioned. Only thing is that let's say the CD19 protein is identified in the brain, on the spine, where the neural system is more dense, then in that case, neurotoxicity will also remain high. Can't help it. Next, cytokine release syndrome. This is also less. Now, what is cytokine? First of all, cytokine release will be easier to understand if you know cytokine. So cytokine is basically when a body fights viral infection or any infection actually. So in that case, cytokine is released. And when the cytokine is released, there is excessive inflammation, which is not good. So with this T cell therapy, the cytokine release is lesser and therefore less inflammation in the body. So my friends, you have a brief analysis of the CAR T cell therapy and the possible benefits, right? So you have that with you. I hope you will be able to summarize it in your own words. Next, the cost of this treatment now. So it is very expensive, 30 to 40 lakhs for this therapy. And the people, the startup, they wanted to bring it down to 10 to 20 lakhs to make it more affordable, which again is very expensive. So let's see how this pans out, how the government works it. It should be integrated into the Ayushman Bharat scheme also. So let's see. Next, Tripura Bangladesh Railway link. The news article actually comes later, explain section comes first. Okay, so it's very simple. You see the map of India, Bangladesh, and of course the Indian part of Northeast. This is separated by Bangladesh. So if one has to go to the Northeast from Kolkata, they have to take a round trip, right? And therefore it hampers connectivity, etc. A more prudent approach would be going directly, but for direct connection, obviously good relations are required. Now, why this news is there today? So there is this rail link connecting Agartala in Tripura, India, with Akaura, which is in the border of Bangladesh. So this rail link is there in the news. So this rail link has become operational. It was virtually inaugurated by the leaders of the two countries, PM Narendra Modi and Sheikh Hasina from Bangladesh. I think that's it actually. Okay. Now this connectivity, of course, it will help. This Tripura is landlocked. It will help bring in tourism. It will help with trade connectivity, people-to-people exchanges between the two countries. And it is envisaged that eventually there will be connectivity from Kolkata to Agartala direct through the direct route. So the long journey of 1600 kilometers will come down significantly. So that's it actually. What comes to my mind now beyond this is Prime Minister Modi says that northeast of India, we're looking at the larger picture now. Northeast of India lies at the heart of India's Act East policy, its engagement with eastern neighbors. But for that to happen, there has to be connectivity initiatives. Now, there is one connectivity initiative which goes like this. This is known as the Kaladan project. It goes right into Myanmar Sitwe Port project. So like this, there is one more here. So it will provide connectivity, sea connectivity to Northeast. Okay, so this initiative. Now, again, he said it is 3T. That is transformation through transportation. So 3Ts. So 3Ts of the Northeast are transformation through transportation. Okay, next article. This is kind of important. Okay. Recently India abstained from voting at the UNGA resolution on Israel-Palestine issue. That is, there should be a truce, humanitarian truce with respect to the Gaza violence. So India abstained from voting, and this resolution was introduced by Jordan. So we have the ambassador of Jordan to India. So he's interpreting the India's move over here. So he's saying that, see, we understand India's situation over there. India has positive relations with Israel and Palestine. It is trying to remain neutral so that it has a possible leverage with the two countries and thereby come to peace. So that is what India is trying to do. Kind of diplomatic answer over here. Okay. That is one thing. Second, Arab countries are united on this war that is taking place. Arab countries are united against Israel. At the moment, they're looking at bringing in truce, but not escalation of violence. We will discuss the escalation of violence also, which was there in the news. Okay, by the way, Jordan, where is Jordan located on the map? So this is Israel over here, and that's Jordan for you, right? Now, I feel that pre-based questions, they will not show you the map in the exam. They can ask you these countries. They can say that arrange the following in clockwise order. Names of the countries are given with this 1, 2, 3, 4, that chronology. Arrange the following in clockwise or anti-clockwise order. So that can be asked. It can also ask you arrange the following in. Now coming to the next topic. Plea in Supreme Court against October 17 verdict on same-sex marriage. So we all know the Supreme Court declined the idea of same-sex or homosexual marriage. So this is being challenged again at the Supreme Court, that this should be reviewed, this judgment. And they have pointed out, the petitioners who want same-sex marriage, they have pointed out 2-3 main points actually, at least in this article. Okay, so one, they say that the court itself says that the marriage is basically a formal and a binding legal relationship, but this is only for heterosexual couples. So this is violative of Article 14 and 15, right? Right to equality is violative of that, discrimination on the basis of sex. Okay, so that is one point. Second, they are saying that it is, again, Article 14, 15, that is the benefit of the cover of law, marriage provides for that. So this is again only for heterosexual couples and not for homosexual couples. Then, the third issue, Supreme Court has time to time said that it is its responsibility to protect the fundamental rights. It's their main obligation. But when it came to the same-sex marriage, they said that this issue is that of the legislature. It is beyond its remit. So this is again, in principle, they are saying this is flawed because ultimate responsibility of enforcing fundamental rights is that of the higher courts, chiefly judiciary, the Supreme Court. So because of all this and this verdict that is given, the court is basically saying, according to this, they're basically saying that the queer Indians or the homosexuals, etc., they should live in closets. They should not come in the open. They should live in closets and live a life of secrecy. So that is what is their interpretation of the judgment. So now we come to the editorial opinion section. Okay, next, this is important. Bombay High Court's intervention in pollution crisis. Remember? Okay. So Bombay High Court has sought the centers, the BMC's local body over there, and state government's viewpoint on how to deal with pollution in Bombay. So it must also nudge, now the article is saying that it must also nudge the government to bring in long-term solution to deal with the issue of pollution. Now, normally Bombay has clean environment. because of its natural cleansing advantages, the speed winds that keep blowing as compared to north of India. In fact, in 2015, there was a question asked that why during the winter months, Delhi has pollution, but not Bombay, Chennai, Kolkata. 2015, and imagine in 6, 7 years, 8 years, things have changed so much. In fact, last year also this issue was there. So long-term solution is definitely needed. This is becoming a predictable problem. So what measures could it be in place? Now you do this exercise, mention it in the Telegram section. You may refer to the measures taken in Delhi, that is the GRAP, Graded Response Action Plan. Okay, so this is one. Okay, now moving on to the next issue. So one is what guardrails, what framework should be there. So that is one theme. The other theme is judicial involvement in environment related issues. So we have seen this multiple times. For example, the graded response action plan, which New Delhi, the NCT region has brought in, it's also because of the Supreme Court's pressure. Likewise, introduction of CNG, making CNG mandatory, that was also because of the Supreme Court. So we see judicial intervention when it comes to environment related problems. Most recently in 2022 mains, a question was asked. So I didn't go beyond. There was a one in 2015 also. So let's just discuss this. So the most significant achievement of modern law in India is constitutionalism of environmental problems. Right. So constitutionalization of environmental problems by the Supreme Court. Discuss the statement with the help of relevant examples, relevant case laws. So again, you have to mention the judgments and associate. Now, life is actually a lot easier for you guys. You get all these points readily available. Right, so some examples, and this is how you're supposed to write. Nothing for me to change over here. And yes, you can explain what is constitutionalization of environmental problems. Basically, making right to environment a fundamental right, and using constitutional provisions to deal with environment-related issues, that is constitutionalization of environmental problems. Okay, so that's one. 2015 question was with respect to Diwalis. So some people, they went to the Supreme Court and they said that, see, our toddlers, our children, babies, they have right to environment too, and they should be protected. So they went to the the Diwali time, lot of pollution takes place. So we were expecting the judgment, and the mains paper question they asked as to what do you think the Supreme Court will order based on prior judgments. So prior standings of the Supreme Court previously on the environment, what do you think will happen? It so happened that the judgment came before the mains examination. Okay, so that's done. So these just give you a few ideas. Now, one more way of looking at a question is this statement over here. We see from time to time, judiciary has to go into this issue, not so much from the government. So the recourse to the judiciary is symptomatic of a deeper problem. Pollution receives attention only when it becomes an emergency. How about discussing it, as a question, discuss or comment on this issue? You should do it. In 200 words, 250, 150 words, you should do it. Building guardrails against pollution without hurting economic growth requires creativity and political will. Very ideal statements for framing questions. You can do it. You have amazing skills if you can write it. If you want, you can share it with me also in that Telegram. It's linked with the description, group. So there you can share your PDF. Okay, Apple's alert. Nothing much as of now for us. We know yesterday that some of the opposition leaders and journalists who are using Apple iPhones, they got a message that state-sponsored attackers are trying to remotely compromise their iPhones. So now the government has said that Apple must cooperate on this issue and also bring in some safeguards so that this does not happen. This statement seemed important. Such surveillance, be it if it is happening, state-sponsored surveillance, infringes upon an individual's right to privacy. It raises security-related concerns and maligns Indian democracy. Now, it could be two. It could be the Indian government itself doing it. It could be other government doing it, other country. So it raises security-related concerns and at the same time maligns Indian democracy if it is the Indian government doing it itself. So this must be investigated in a fair, independent, and transparent manner. Okay, we have two articles. So one is about the Air Force, air power, the lessons that we get from the Gaza-Ukraine war. I don't think UPSC will ask this. I did do this analysis, but I don't expect this. I'm not doing it. If you want, I'll share the screenshot. Okay. Next is the tyranny of the productivity. So we all know previously Narayan Murthy, the founder of Infosys, so he said that if India has to grow and move forward, become a developed nation, people should work 70 hours a week. Now, obviously, there is a reaction to it. Some doctors have also said that we are already seeing the higher incidence of heart ailments and hypertension. So this is not a sustainable way of life. Same opinion, a lot of it is already there in the social media. The international news, first departures from Gaza, Rafah. So I think you should just have a basic idea. Deadline over Pakistan. Pakistan wants to deport Afghans who are illegally staying. So the deadline is over. Now they're detaining those people. Yes, important. Israel deploys missile boats in Red Sea after Yemen Houthi attack. You know what is important? What is interesting is missile boats. What are they? Which I could not figure out. But the Yemen Houthi attack and Red Sea, these two are important. So again, we'll visit the map. So see, with this war that is taking place, it's between Israel and Gaza, but Gaza is Palestine, Palestine is Arab, and none of the Arab countries are happy with this. Now, as long as the war remains over here, it's not fine, but at least it does not affect the markets as such, right? Trade, etc. But if the war expands, and the war is prolonged, and eventually if it expands, then of course it will affect trade, connectivity, etc. And of course the markets. So you can see this is the Suez Canal, so where the trade takes place. Imagine if the tension rises, of course this route will get affected. So today we hear that Yemen, which is in the Red Sea region, and so they made some attacks, they fired some drone attacks on the Israel. So Yemen has a militia group known as Houthi, which is sponsored by Iran. So they have done this exercise. So there is always a possibility of war, the tensions escalating between this region, which is not good. Coming to the economy section, manufacturing activity hits 8-month low. I find it so contradictory. On one hand, we hear that GST is at 13-month high. In fact, on my phone notification, I got that Britannia company has done exceptionally well. And on the other hand, we get data that manufacturing activity hits 8-month low. Okay. Anyways, so this data is coming from PMI, that is Purchasing Managers Index. This has nothing to do with the government. So government releases its own indicator known as IIP, which is done by the NSO. Right. This is a private initiative. UPSC asks such questions. So this is done by IHS Markets, this agency. Next, Food Safety Security Authority of India Index. So their index has pointed out major states slip on food safety compared to 2019. So from point of view, what are the parameters? So we get it over here: compliance, consumer empowerment, etc. Now, what comes to mind is also one more issue, the issue of adulteration of food. So something that we can look into later. Today I'm not doing this. So adulteration of food, this idea comes to mind. Then US Federal Reserve, like our Reserve Bank of India, they have their Fed Bank. So they leave in rates unchanged. So they leave doors open for hike. Okay. So if the federal bank, if they increase the rates, or if they hike it. So in that case, we expect, normally it happens that money from India and other countries, dollars, come back to the US, which have been invested in other countries. So this leads to appreciation of dollars and depreciation of local currencies. And by that virtue, it is inflationary, right? Because your imports get more expensive, uh, plus the current account deficit rises. So I missed one news. So let's just cover and close this analysis. Biggest China Antarctic fleet sails to build research station. So this biggest China Antarctic fleet is Shulong 2 or Snow Dragon 2. So Shulong 2 or Snow Dragon 2, which was there in news, is associated with which of the following? A, B, C, D. Right. So it was a Chinese Antarctic fleet. Okay. Now, so we're talking about China's Antarctic research. So what is India doing? So India has their own, of course, they have their own presence with reference to the Arctic and Antarctic. So they're mentioned over here, and I expect pre-based question. In fact, I've seen CSAT passages also on the same. So India's mission is known as in Antarctic is Maitri and Bharti, commissioned in 1989 and Bharti 2012. And in for Arctics, we have Himadri Station, which is in Svalbard, Arctic. So these two. Okay, so that's it from today's